Here's more wrestling news for February 16th, 2023, and we're starting off with Matt Riddle, and there was a time when he seemed on the cusp of a main event run, and even challenged Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal title, but that was a long time ago. The original Bro has been away for months following a violation of WWE's wellness policy and a stint in rehab, and though his suspension has long since ended, there's been no sign of him on TV. Riddle had been advertised locally for this week's episode of Raw, but the show came and went without him, but his return may not be too far away. On Twitter this week, Riddle broke his silence in a Valentine's Day message to his girlfriend Misha Montana and told the fans, "I'll see you all very soon." As to how soon his return will be, that's hard to say, though it was previously reported that WWE has no plans for him at WrestleMania 39. Even away from TV, Riddle has continued to make headlines for the wrong reasons, as he faced multiple accusations of infidelity, and we'll just have to wait and see how soon his return really is. It was at the Royal Rumble that Cody Rhodes made his in-ring return to WWE from injury, winning the Men's Rumble match from the number 30 position. The ending of the match saw Rhodes go one-on-one with Gunther, the number 1 entrant, and the leader of Imperium gave his expected hard-hitting performance. Speaking with My Mom's Basement, Rhodes spoke about his mother, who was in attendance for the Rumble, and said that she was ready to throw down with the Intercontinental Champion. Rhodes said that his mom was shocked with how devastating Gunther's chops were, and that when she saw him backstage, it looked like she was ready to fight him. Thankfully, such a backstage brawl between Gunther and Mama Rhodes did not happen, but with Cody having said he'd be interested in feuding with the Austrian, he may have to keep his mother at home if there is a rematch. For Cody Rhodes, winning the Rumble match was the perfect comeback from his June 2022 injury, which Seth Rollins was happy to exploit inside Hell in a Cell. Rhodes' victory over Rollins was the third PLE win by the American Nightmare over Seth after the two faced off at WrestleMania and WrestleMania Backlash. Since then, Rollins has become more of a babyface thanks to his feud with Austin Theory, but on My Mom's Basement, Cody said he'd likely never see eye to eye with the architect of the Shield. "I was met with the ultimate individual, Seth Rollins, who's carrying Raw, and just so good, and for him to not look at me as the enemy, but for him to look at me as an asset. And Seth and I, genuinely, if you ask him the same thing, if he was sitting in this chair, he'd tell you, he doesn't like me, I don't like Seth, we're not gonna get along ever. However, the utmost respect for him, and for him to look at me as an asset made me not worry about what anyone else was thinking." Right now, Cody Rhodes' attention is on a much different member of the Shield, that being undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, but Cody will never forget the integral part Seth Rollins played in his return to WWE. It was in April of 2019 that WWE aired a bizarre segment featuring The Revival as the two were spotted shaving each other in the shower by the Usos. Though some found it funny, many fans simply groaned at how the talented tag team were being treated, and it wasn't just audiences who had a problem. While speaking on his FTR podcast, Dax Harwood talked about the shower segment and said that when presented with the concept, he felt like the childish wasn't even funny. Harwood questioned what exactly did Vince McMahon find so funny, and questioned if McMahon thought having another man shave a man's back was supposed to be effeminate and, in his view, hilarious. Despite hating the idea, the Revival were determined to give a hilarious performance and said that after barrel rolling to the back, the team got a standing ovation from everybody, including McMahon. Paul Heyman, who Harwood said he trusts as much as he trusts his dog to read the Bible, reportedly told the two, "You always thought you were gonna get over by being a great wrestler, huh? Now you're over with the man," pointing to Vince. While McMahon may have liked what he got on TV, it was his segments like these and other embarrassing ideas that led to the Revival leaving WWE and becoming FTR and AEW. But with Triple H now at the creative helm, we can't count out a return by the first ever WWE Triple Crown Tag Team Champions. Since September, CM Punk has been nowhere to be seen on AEW programming, as he remains suspended over his role in the All Out 2022 controversy. It's been reported that Punk is seeking a buyout of his AEW contract so he can go work elsewhere, and while we can't say for sure that's going to happen, we do know when fans can see him next. Speaking to Sportskeeda, Cage Fury Championships confirmed that Punk will be resuming his role as an MMA commentator soon enough, and will be at the upcoming events on March 31st and April 1st. That April 1st date is an interesting one given that it is also the day of WrestleMania 39 Saturday, meaning it's highly unlikely he'll be at WWE's flagship event. Punk was recently spotted with Danhausen and Brody King, the latter of whom liked to post recently saying Punk did nothing wrong at All Out, and it remains to be seen if he ever steps foot in an AEW ring again. Before leaving AEW, Cody Rhodes served as an executive vice president of the company, and as you'd expect, had plenty of important roles backstage. One aspect of Cody's job was to scour new talent for the company, and while plenty of ex-WWE names have since joined AEW, one name not on the list is Heath Slater. At one time, Rhodes held a Q&A on his Instagram, and when a fan asked if he was interested in signing the one-man band, Rhodes responded with an emphatic "Nope, no" on Heath Slater. Slater wasn't too thrilled with the response and has since made a name for himself in Impact Wrestling, but with Rhodes gone, perhaps the one-man Southern band could be All Elite after all. With WWE 2K23 coming out in less than a month, there's been a ton of talk about the game's roster and who has and hasn't made the cut. When the game's roster was revealed this week, many were surprised that Scarlett, who had been listed with the roster, had later been removed, but there is a reason for that. When WrestleZone asked 2K Games about Scarlett, it was explained that she is in the game as a manager, and that her name being listed on the playable roster was simply an error, so fans will get to see the seductive Siren of Sin in WWE 2K23. WWE 2K23 will also feature Lita, who recently made an appearance on Raw, or at least it will feature someone who 2K claims is the Hall of Famer. When Lita's entrance was shared online, fans blasted the bad character design, as well as 2K's decision to keep using the same ring attire we've seen for years. Lita has been in several WWE video games and has looked far better in previous games, and it just goes to show that newer technology doesn't always mean better character design. At the 2018 Royal Rumble, the Revival faced the Good Brothers on the pre-show in a match that the now FTR would go on to win. Clocking in at just over 9 minutes, the match is fine and what you'd expect from two talented teams, but that's not how Vince McMahon saw it. On his FTR podcast, Dax Harwood said that backstage, McMahon called it the worst wrestling match he's seen in his life, and given his decades in the industry, that's saying something. Jokingly, Harwood took this accolade as a badge of pride, as it's nice to be remembered for something, even if it means being remembered for having the worst match in the eyes of Vince McMahon. And we're ending today with Malakai Black, who in 2017 made his WWE debut at the United Kingdom Championship Tournament, and the former Tommy End had a ton of buzz among fans. Unfortunately, all the hard work Black put in as part of NXT fizzled out once he made it to the main roster in 2019, as the Dutchman had to now cater to Vince McMahon's creative whims. Speaking on the Hardlore Music podcast, Black disclosed his relationship with McMahon and said that Vince at least claimed he was going to do something with him. He said, "I had a whole talk with Vince. This was in the COVID era. To make a very long story short, Vince was like, 'We gotta do something with you.' And I was like, 'Yeah, no shit.' We had a 45-minute conversation. It was kind of unheard of because Vince usually didn't talk to people longer than 5 to 10 minutes. He really took the time." Ultimately, any plans for Black didn't go far, and after a planned feud with Big E was dropped, he was released from WWE in June 2021. Making its AEW debut just 1 month later, Black's booking under Tony Khan has also been criticized by fans. And what would you do differently with the former NXT champion?